This keeps getting worse. Garrett Wilson and Jeff Ulbrich have both spoken out on the loss, not having good responses at all, as the Jets' whole situation looks very sad right now, and that's mainly because it is, and we're going to break this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris and Matt here, and we're going to jump right into the video, as we always do. But also, guys, real quick, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton while we suffer through watching the New York Jets and giving y'all content every single day, despite the fact that it is brutal to watch them play football. But Matt, Sauce Gardner has spoken out negatively on the Jets, and then Garrett Wilson and Jeff Ulbrich also did the same, but in a different, more professional light. No real shade towards Sauce. I get it. You're on the Jets. It's depressing. But with Garrett Wilson and Jeff Ulbrich both having not too great responses to this situation, it just, everything continues to get worse for the New York Jets. And if we take a look right here, Garrett Wilson was very sad in the press conference because he wants to win and the New York Jets won't let him. And he said, I don't think we went about our meetings, our practice this week the wrong way. I just think that at the end of the day, it's all about Sunday. I say that all the time, but when you go out and play bad, you have to, I don't know, maybe fake it a little bit to make it seem real, but the energy is not there because we are all playing like trash. So, you know, that's how I see it. Obviously, there's nothing good to say about the Jets. We know that they just lost 41-6 against the Cardinals. We're all aware there's nothing good to talk about with the New York Jets. That's just the way it is right now and has been for essentially the last 15 years. But somehow, through all the negative talk and all the sadness, somehow Garrett Wilson just gave such a breath of fresh air with that comment. He's not sugarcoating it. We talked about this on a Sauce Gardner video we did recently where at least Aaron Rodgers is no longer giving movie quotes or something and is just being upset they're losing. Garrett Wilson is going out there and basically saying, yep, we all look terrible. Team sucks. We're 3-7. This sucks. It's hard to pretend like this doesn't suck. The Jets suck. We all know that. But at least Garrett Wilson isn't sugarcoating things or just being weird about it. He's just clearly a competitive psychopath, like many people who manage to get as good as he is in football. But many a time, it's not good enough, and with the New York Jets, it's never good enough because they're never even good. So, not really much else for me to say on that. Matt?
So, as bad as the season has looked so far, and it's looked really bad, this way of thinking is a step in the right direction. People in the locker room need to understand that this is not okay. This is not the way an NFL team is supposed to function. After a bad game like this, you're supposed to feel like it was a bad game. There's been so many games so far this year that, dating back to when Saleh was still the coach, you'd be like, there's a lot of stuff to fix, but we'll get it worked out. And it's not that anymore. Now people are realizing this is really, really, really bad. We are playing like garbage and things need to change. And we're going to see if that sparks change. Knowing the Jets, things don't seem to ever change. Seems like just 4 years ago, we were in the same spot, needing a head coach. The owner was going overseas to be the ambassador of the UK, and we needed a quarterback. And we are back in the same situation over and over and over again. The cycle continues. Garrett Wilson, right now, he's trying to come out, and we're going to see if this can give the team a boost. But saying the right things, it doesn't. First of all, this is the right thing to say because it is different from the things that were being said earlier in the season where it felt like losing games was okay. Now, it's clear that players in the locker room know that what is going on is not okay. So you got to say things like this to start to have that change in a culture. Right now, the rest of the season, it's about finding out what the Jets are going to be doing going forwards next year. And in the future, they need to build a culture, and 3-7, they're not going to make the playoffs. So you got to get players bought in on the future of the New York Jets. And to do that, the number one thing, like you said, on Sunday, it all comes down to Sunday. You got to win on Sunday. Now, we know we've seen the Detroit Lions. They have a great culture. They were really, really, really bad when head coach Dan Campbell took over the team, but they were able to build a culture. So when the good players got there, they were able to elevate the team. The Jets need to be able to find a way to create that culture that players can buy into. So the first way to get that culture is, one, you need to admit that you have a culture problem, which is finally starting to happen this week. And then you need to have guys start working on themselves. And then your top guys need to work on themselves so the worst guys can see, oh, if those guys can work hard and work to change things around here, I can too. Because if the top guys feel like, oh, well, that's life, I guess, it's never gonna change. The guys at the very top need to make a change. Garrett Wilson is one of those top guys, even though it's only his third year in the league.
Yeah.
So we're asking a ton out of young players who it is not fair to Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall for us to say they need to be the leaders of this franchise, because they were supposed to inherit. You're supposed to be drafted into a team that has a culture. You're supposed to be drafted into a team that knows how to be a competent football franchise. They were not. They were drafted to the New York Jets, who have been struggling for 24 years since Woody Johnson bought the team, and there's no end in sight. Someone has to step up, make a change, be a leader, and start to turn this franchise around. It starts, I know, saying things at the podium seems like it's nothing, but Chris, whether these quotes like this actually turn into something is yet to be determined, and knowing the Jets probably won't turn into anything. But this is the way it has to start. It has to start with quotes like this, and I want to see other players come out and say, we're playing really bad. We need to change. We need things to change. And it can't be just stuff like, oh, like Saleh, stuff needs to change. We'll get it fixed. It has to be like Sauce. He's saying, I got to tackle better. He's got to tackle better. Garrett Wilson, it's tough to see what he's got to do better, but he needs to hold on to the football. He's had a couple fumbles in his career. He also likes to catch the ball and run with it like he's Michael Vick with one hand, and that's a problem. Also, of course, he had that awful drop versus the Steelers, but we don't talk about that. That never happened. So other guys, they need to work on themselves to be the best version of themselves they can be, so the Jets can be the best version of themselves that they can be. And hopefully we can use the rest of this season to show coaches, cough, cough, Ben Johnson, that this is a group of guys that you want to coach. And the top offensive-minded potential head coaches, we need to make them want to come to New York City and to coach for the New York Jets. Because right now, we have given them zero reason to believe that right now it looks like if you come to the Jets, you are going to be hired just to be fired. The Jets need to change the narrative around the team, and it's our veterans, third-year guys who need to start this trend, and hopefully this quote is the start of that trend.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Rodgers-Devontae thing went poorly. It's pretty much over at this point. Is what it is. It failed. Hard to imagine how they pulled that one off, but the Jets did. Here's the thing. Sauce will be here next year. Breece will be here next year. Wilson will be here next year. Jermaine Johnson will be back. Will McDonald will be here next year. C.J. Mosley apparently never goes anywhere as of right now, though he should for his own sake, and he deserves to. But you'll have some of the guys. You'll have Michael Carter here. You'll have guys who are good. You'll have good players.
They're going to have a really good rookie probably, too.
They'll have a real good rookie with that top 10 pick. Joe Douglas, if he's doing the drafting, which I highly doubt he will be at this point, but if he is, man knows how to draft. Look, the Jets are going to have good players still. It's the one silver lining of all of this is a lot of their best players are younger guys. Yeah, they're going to need a quarterback. Maybe Rodgers and Adams decide to run it back one more time, having the full season and a new coach who they can handpick and all that, yada, yada, yada. Maybe that's what they'll want to do. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if that's what happened. I honestly kind of expect that to be what happens. But
I agree with you. I think that is going to happen. And I also think part of that is going to be a highly developmental quarterback being taken in the second, third, or fourth round. It's not going to be Jordan Travis. He still hasn't practiced. He's going to get a shot, but he is probably not the future behind Aaron Rodgers. And they're going to want to develop that guy behind Aaron Rodgers.
I agree. I imagine that is what they're going to do. And is it my favorite outcome? I think in a way, yes, because it screams one last chance to try to make this thing work, which would be really cool. But And also you get to get your younger guys winning experience, which is very important, especially for a guy like Garrett Wilson and a guy like Sauce Gardner. I mean, Sauce, I think more than anything, what's happened is he looks dejected and fair. Quinnen Williams. He's 25, 26 years old. Guy's young. You got time for Quinnen Williams to still be his best self. And not a great season, but I think, again, it's a little bit of dejection, plus the fact that he's the only defensive tackle, so that's not helping him. Look, the Jets can turn around and still be a playoff team next season, and it sucks to say that because it feels like we've said this for the last 14 years, because we have been. Not exactly, actually. There have been years where we're like, yeah, we're not going to be good for a few years. But, like, with this team, I imagine Rodgers will not want to leave the NFL with a bad taste in his mouth, and maybe he'll be wanting to help the Jets fans out and not leave them with a bad taste in their mouths either. If he does that, Devontae Adams is going to stay in New York and play with Rodgers in Rodgers' final year because of the connection they have and all that. The thing is, you do that, you risk your younger players just getting more and more upset that they don't ever get to show that it's their team now, and with all the extensions coming through, then you're going to have to make a ton of tough decisions in a row, which is scary. But at the same time, I do sort of think that's the best outcome for the Jets still. Now, Gardner's right to be upset, and I don't know why I keep saying Sauce. I think because I know he's upset also, but Wilson's has more of a right to be upset than anyone because he's having a phenomenal season. And Jeff Ulbrich has kind of piggybacked off what Garrett Wilson and said they were not prepared to play, and that falls on my shoulders. I honestly don't think it does, personally. That doesn't fall on your shoulders. It falls on head coach Robert Saleh. Oh, wait, nope, never mind. It does fall on your shoulders, unfortunately, Jeff. Not your fault that it falls on your shoulders. It's Woody Johnson's fault, but it does. I don't know, coach better.
So, yeah, another part of this article was head coach Jeff Ulbrich. He said they knew going into the week that tackling was going to be a problem because they've had problems tackling. He said, we drilled it, but obviously we didn't drill it hard enough, so that's on me. So that was the whole quote. They're clearly not hitting hard enough. They didn't look like they were ready to tackle week 1. They're still not ready to tackle week 10 against a super physical Arizona Cardinals team. I told you that they had 3 running backs who they liked, and they were going to run the ball a lot. And the Jets somehow were not at all prepared for that. Kyler Murray also said he was going to run the ball. We had to keep him in the pocket. He had, I'm pretty sure, 2 rushing touchdowns. So it was just, the problem is you can see these issues coming. You knew what they were going to do. They didn't do anything that we didn't think they could do. Marvin Harrison Jr. has had so many awful games this year, and somehow against the Jets he reverts back into Ohio State Marvin. It's just so frustrating. The Jets, not only do their players play worse when they get here, it seems like everyone just goes crazy when they play against the Jets. And speaking of other guys not on the Jets, did you see the game-winning touchdown for the Steelers this weekend, Chris?
I don't want to talk about it, man.
Yeah. I mean,
I wonder who it could have been.
Yeah.
Definitely not Mike Williams. It wasn't him.
People like making fun of the Jets. Mike Williams, what I really like is he came out and tweeted, and in his tweet, it was just like, oh, good win. One of the hashtags was #redline. And I'm like, you know what? Good for you, Mike. You after Aaron Rodgers called you out, you can absolutely hit him back with that. Even though I'm a Jets fan and I want to see, I would have rather seen him do well in the Jets, and I'm not happy to see him do better somewhere else. You got to support a clap back like that. That's just, I like it because he handled himself perfectly on the Jets. They asked him, do you want to get traded? And he just said, whatever you guys want to do with me, I'll be fine with it. So he handles himself like a pro. If he wants to take a little shot here at Rodgers, I'm all for it.
That also makes me happy.
Did you see that third down where Aaron Rodgers is rolling to his right and Garrett Wilson is jumping with his arms over his head, 3rd and 5 wide open? That was, Aaron Rodgers still picked it up eventually, but that was so frustrating to watch. And Aaron Rodgers, poor quarterbacking play, is hurting this team so much. Another reason why I like the Aaron Rodgers comes back next year is because if we have another really bad year like this, it puts us in the conversation of getting one of those elite quarterbacks who are going to be at the top of next year's 2026 draft. Arch Manning, he is a franchise savior. The quarterbacks this year are not franchise saviors. He is a franchise savior, and he's not even the only one. There might be 1, 2, or 2 more franchise saviors in that 2026 draft class. So the Jets, if they bring Aaron Rodgers back, he gets a chance to prove himself and maybe he does turn around and it all works out with a real head coach, or maybe this happens again, except the light at the end of the tunnel can be there are good quarterbacks in the draft class. The reason why this year feels so bad is because the top of the draft, there's no quarterbacks. We need a quarterback, and they're just not there this year. So it doesn't make any sense to lose games.
I honestly think, like, this is like genuinely what I believe. I think you just go out and re-sign LaMichael Pirine and have him be the quarterback. Because, you know, he was just the greatest player ever, actually. I scored many touchdowns with him.
I would love to see Adrian Martinez get in the game. He had such a fun preseason, and the Jets are just playing for fun now because they don't play for wins.
I'd rather see Adrian Peterson play at this point. I'd rather see you play.
Let's see what he's got. Let's see what AP's got.
Frankly, I mean, I don't know. You have a messed up shoulder, and I think you could be a better quarterback. That's just what I think. I don't know. Get Jalen Brunson to do it. Get me to do it. Get Matt to do it. Who cares? Like, subscribe. Go Jets. Also, go LaMichael Pirine, wherever you're at. Go
LaMichael, not LaMichael.
Now I'm just going to call him Michael.